Hey there, everyone. So what is the still face experiment and what does it have to do with autism? So this is really important stuff. So I want you to stick around for the next 10 minutes and find out. It's going to illuminate autism for you. So hey, everyone, I am Sue Simmons. I am the founder of Equinox Family Consulting and the creator of the Better Behavior Bootcamp for ASD moms. And if you're the mom of a child on the spectrum, I want you to have a happier life. I want to help you get your power back. I want to teach you the skills to learn to manage difficult behavior so you can feel competent as a parent. And I want to help you cultivate a more positive and loving relationship with your child. Sound good? Excellent. Okay, so before I get started, if you haven't already downloaded our e-guide to making sense of autism and difficult behavior, you can download it below in the comment section. If you'd like information on the Better Behavior Bootcamp or our Lemons to Lemonade ASD Moms group, you can just type in lemons down below. And this also applies to if you are watching the replay, okay? So you can still get the guide or join the group if you're watching the replay. All right, so welcome to episode number 13 of To the Spectrum and Beyond. Hey, Kendra, thank you so much for being here. Yay. I'm super excited about this episode. It is fascinating stuff, and it's really important to understand what autism really is, aside from, what we're told, that it's about communication, behavior, and social challenges, because it's so much more than that. And I don't want this to be discouraging to you because there are so many things that we can do as parents to move things in a positive direction. All right, so I'm going to talk about the still face experiment. This is something that was done, by the way, also there is going to be a link to the video that I'm referring to in the comments. You can find it on YouTube. Just Google in YouTube, still face experiment. So this was done by a developmental psychologist from Harvard University. His name is Edward Tronick. And when I did my training many years ago, we studied his work. It's fascinating. So I'm going to just tell you briefly what happens in the video. So he has a 1-year-old child in a high chair sitting across from her mom. So they're, having FaceTime. And so they begin to engage and they sort of greet each other, and they have this amazing social dance, which we call this co-regulation, I'm sorry. So in the video, the child, who's like just soaking this up, is pointing and showing things to her mom. She's clearly so happy and engaged, and it's really cute. And it's amazing how brilliant a communicator this 1-year-old is. Karen just put the link there. Thank you, Karen. So then he instructs the mom to turn away and then to turn back, like with a poker face. So she makes no reactions whatsoever to what her child is doing. So immediately the child starts, looking at her and like, what's going on? Where are you? She's really disturbed by this. And then she begins to reach out. She points again, knowing that worked before. And then she just like squirms in her chair and lets out this real squeal, like, come on, mom. And she begins to cry, and it's heartbreaking to watch. So then, as quickly as the mom adopted this poker face, she comes back to life again. And she goes, hello, baby, and does all that, sort of sing-songy talk that we use with infants. And so right away, they jump right back in as though nothing had happened. And this little girl demonstrates how resilient she is. She's right back in there. It's really, really cool. So why is this important? Okay, and by the way, I felt so bad for this mom because it must have been terrible for her. So this really demonstrates a few things. So how at such a young age, parent and child can be engaged in co-regulation or this social dance. Like, it's really amazing. And by the way, this experiment was done to demonstrate that, but also what happens when that connection breaks down and how the child is impacted. So also how it's like they're having a conversation without words. It's so neat. And that little child is just soaking up this engagement. She's loving it. She wants to share her experiences with her mom by pointing and saying, hey, look at that. So she wants to share what's going through her mind with her mom. And boy, you know, when that state is broken down, how much it impacts her, but how resilient she is when they come back together. So it's fascinating. And so this mindset of this little girl and most typically developing children, well, I shouldn't say most, all typically developing children, is called a growth-seeking mindset. And this is really important for you to understand. Growth-seeking is an innate human, it's a universal desire to seek out novel experiences, to explore, to acquire new skills, mastery of those skills, and just constant growth, okay? And this is interesting because there is this never-ending search for knowledge, information, and it all happens through the relationship with the mom and parents, of course. So this, a typically developing child is going to get bored very easily. So when they master a skill or learn how to do something, they're constantly, hi, Amy, I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking forward to talking to you in a little bit. I lost my train of thought. Right, so once they master a skill, they move on to something new. So they are super motivated to share what's going on in their minds with their parents and caregivers. They are soaking everything up that's going on around them. They're like little scientists. They're always exploring and watching so carefully. They're always seeking parental guidance, encouragement, and support. And this is where it gets super important. So if a little child is attempting to understand something and they cannot understand it, what do? They will look to the parent for information. So, you know, should I be doing this? Is this safe? Should I keep going or should I withdraw? And they immediately understand that feedback. And so this is called social referencing. And as typical individuals, we do this all the time. Hello, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. And so social referencing is really borrowing another person's perspective. So if we're confused, if we're frustrated, you know, we're looking for feedback. So we make direct eye contact. So a young child will constantly be going back and forth between doing something on their own if they're not engaged with the parents, then sharing it with the parents, and then going back to doing their own thing. And so this ongoing process creates what we call a guiding relationship. And this is, like I said, universal. This is so well studied. And so this growth-seeking mindset and the feedback that ensues is critical for that child's development. And it carries on throughout life. And of course, maybe not so much during the teenage years, but it does resume once the child becomes a human being again. And I'm joking, but we know how teenagers can be. So this guiding relationship is really critical. So what's important is that the parent is able to direct the child's growth-seeking mindset. Andrea Hawker, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for the love. Right back at you, sister. So the parent is able to direct this child's growth-seeking mindset in a productive manner, right? So the parent is constantly overseeing things, helping the child learn new things. And so the child is constantly seeking out more autonomy, but yet staying connected to the parent. So why am I talking about this? Why is this important? So we're going to switch gears now and talk about what happens in an ASD child. So through research, developmental scientists have discovered that an ASD child's growth-seeking mindset is inhibited. And so this has a huge impact on what happens. So rather than seeking growth, their primary motivation is seeking maintaining balance. So they are stability maintaining. So they have restricted object interest. So they might, spin something or rotate something. You know what I'm talking about. They will do anything to avoid a situation of uncertainty. Okay? They do not provide the actions and attention that is required for the parent to establish that guiding relationship. And there's a lack of social engagement, and they do not reference socially, because if you think about it, why would they? It has no meaning to them. So that's why, by the way, it is fruitless to teach eye contact without the child having the underpinnings or the foundation of being able to co-regulate and have that social dance, because there's no meaning to that eye contact. So it might make us feel better, but it does nothing at all for the child. So it's really, it's fruitless. So I don't have to tell you that this is very difficult. So what happens next? Well, of course, the parents are very frustrated and in a lot of emotional pain. So as the child actively seeks or avoids emotional connection, the parents are becoming more directive, because they, I did the same thing. What else are you going to do, right? So they will, there's like a conflict in what's going on for them. So the child wants to disengage and avoid, and the parent is trying to, do this, talk to me, do this, right? Which of course would be the natural response. So what this means in the big picture is that an ASD child is deprived of the experiences that are necessary for mental growth and self-development. Is this making sense? Can you just give me a thumbs up if you're getting what I'm talking about, and let me know if you have any questions, okay? So as a result, the child's development becomes restricted and abnormal. So I'm just going to scroll up and see, because, oh, Nikki Killingsworth, hi. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you're with me. So if you picture what's going on for this child, excellent, thanks. Imagine not having access to this guiding relationship. For the child, it's no wonder the child is avoiding, because they're basically alone in this scary world with no connection that would be normally developing between the parent and child. So, and what's also important is that because this guiding relationship is intended to carry on throughout life, we tend to rely on therapists early on, which of course, I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's important to try to build a guiding relationship with your child so that You know, when therapy is over and so on, you can know how to manage and how to engage with your child. And by the way, you know, what I'm going to share next, it may seem, it's going to seem a little uncomfortable to learn, but I'm telling you that there is hope, and these things can change. So I just want you to make sure you take that part in, okay? So how does this show up for kids on the spectrum? So it's way more than communication, behavior, and social issues. So the child has not been able to develop a sense of self. So the parent acts like a mirror to the child. So because there's all this feedback, through those interactions, the child is learning about herself, and I'm using her in this case, on an ongoing basis. The child lacks self-awareness for the same reason, because, you know, all of these things are as a result of the lack of guiding relationship formation. So the child doesn't necessarily understand when someone's not interested or how they're impacting other people. Of course, they don't make eye contact, right? Again, because why would they? They engage in repetitive behaviors. We've all seen that, right? And of course, that's because it's safe, right? It's predictable. So, you know, it's no surprise that our kids love these video games and, you know, like looking at fans or whatever it may be. They don't develop resilience because they haven't had experiences of being able to overcome adversity and be successful in these mental challenges and, you know, physical things as well. So they also can't make personal meaning of things. So for example, like I'm in a new place, I don't know where I am, but I'm with mom, so I'm safe, right? So because of a lack of personal meaning, they can't come to those conclusions. They also have difficulty saving, consolidating, and recalling personal memories. Like, for example, mental time travel. Like, something happens, and immediately your brain, like, you have a flat tire. This is an example I like. If you have a flat tire, poof, out comes information from the last time you had a flat tire, or what you think you might do if you haven't had a flat tire. Make sense? They lack the ability to engage in what I call dynamic mental processing. So this is where this rigidity comes in. So, you know, when something goes off the rails, they don't have all of this personal experience to be able to come up with a new solution. So, you know, they melt down. And of course, self-regulation, right? That's an obvious. So here's the thing. One thing, every child is different. So, you know, I'm using these examples, but they apply to children. You know, each one of us is unique, right? And so are our ASD kids. So I'm not saying that every ASD child has these deficits, you know, across the board 100%. Not at all. Quite the opposite. So this is the way I like to look at it. So if you think about a computer, the computer has hardware and software, right? So the hardware is the machine. And so in this case, the hardware is the brain. And our kids have brains, and there is some variation in connectivity and that sort of thing, but there's really nothing wrong with their brains typically. So they have the hardware, but what's missing is the software. And the software is all of the information that was gained through that guiding relationship. Are you following me? So what happens as a result? So if this guiding relationship is not in place, now you can probably appreciate why your child experiences so much anxiety and why they're always seeking stability maintenance. So the video games and all of those things are more or less predictable. So, you know, of course, these kids aren't stupid, right? They know what they need in order to maintain their composure and their ability to cope. So unfortunately, what happens is we tend to constantly be bombarding them with prompts because they're not, kind of getting it. And so this doesn't help, unfortunately, because when you're already anxious and, on high alert in terms of your body and your brain, when someone's constantly, peppering you with prompts and demands, it can get on your nerves, right? Again, like, our kids are human beings. They're not from Mars. So we get into power struggles as a result, right? And we see lots of difficult behavior. And this is why, right? It makes sense when you look at it and this is looking at it from a developmental perspective, and that's what my work is all based on. And so what concerns me about a behavioral approach to autism is that a lot of emphasis is put on trying to make the child sort of fit in more and to try to kind of squash these negative behaviors. And so that approach is not, now I'm not saying that's the only goal, of course, but the primary goal is not to develop the child's capacity to be more flexible, right? To build new memories of competence and so forth. And that's what my work is all about. So here's my big question for you. I want you to think about this, and I want to have some engagement on the Facebook page about this question. So now that you know what you know, and I realize I've been giving you like a shit ton of information, if you'll pardon the expression. Is it more important in the long run to stop a child from acting out, okay, to look more normal, however you want to see it, or to help develop his brain so that he can develop the capacity to think? So that's the $1 million question I want you to think about, and feel free to ask questions. And so again, the brain is capable of change. I've been doing this for 12, 13 years now. I've seen it over and over and over and over. It is possible. I've seen incredible transformation in these kids, but guess where it's coming from? It's not coming from me. I am guiding the parents to learn how to guide their child's thinking. So what I'm referring to is the Relationship Development Intervention Program. That's kind of the big program that I offer. So, of course, you know about the Better Behavior Boot Camp. And the Better Behavior Boot Camp is a different way of helping, like, I help you to work with your child to get behavior under control. And it's absolutely essential to do that. And next week, that's what I'm going to talk about. So you've got to come back next week. So if you found this interesting, please like and share. I want to get this information out everywhere so that people, moms and parents, can really see autism as a developmental challenge and why they see these behaviors in their child, so they can really get it. So thank you for listening. So the Better Behavior Boot Camp, we have 2 groups starting on September 19th. There's going to be a Thursday at 1 p.m. group and a Thursday at 7 p.m. So I think the 19th is maybe it's a Wednesday. Anyways, the 19th. And if you want information, you can go to lemons2lemonade.mom/BBB. And there you can make an appointment to talk to me about the program. I've got people coming in now, so if you're interested, it's time to move on it. And so, yes, that's what I have to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this. It's so great to see people on this broadcast. I love doing this, and I love teaching, so it's really fun for me. But of course, doing the Facebook Live thing, I'm going to tell you, it's not my favorite thing to do. But it's what we have to do, right? And talk about mental challenge. Anyhow, so like and share, put your comments down below. Talk to me about the boot camp. It's amazing. I'm so excited about it. And now it's time for me to shut up. So thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Oh, Andrea, I'm so glad you're with us in the group. It's a wonderful, we have like 550 people in our group now. It's amazing. What an engaged, amazing group of moms. And so much love and support is, you know, being spread throughout the group. So join us in the Lemons to Lemonade ASD Moms group. All right, I really have to stop now. I could go on all day. Once I get started, I can't stop. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone. I care about you so much. I care about your children, and I am here for you. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'll see you here next Thursday at 2 p.m. Okay, bye for now.